G'day guys, ZiggyD here and welcome to a guide for the Bestiary League. I'm going to cover beast crafting and capturing beasts, as well as a few extra tips that you can use to make capturing and crafting a little bit easier and more profitable. So when you first leave Lion Eyes Watch in Act 1, you'll encounter Einhar Frey here. When you talk to him, he'll give you a couple of quests that introduce you to the very basics of beast capturing and crafting, and he'll give you a few nets, which will look something like this. You start off with rope nets, and then you'll progress through iron and steel nets and thaumaturgical nets, and there's different tiers of nets, and the difference between these guys is typically just the level range at which they're efficient at capturing. You can kind of go either side of this, and you can use higher level nets to easily capture lower level monsters if you want, and that'll be relevant later in a part that I'll cover. But basically, you want to mostly use things that are relevant for your level. A useful thing to know is that you can vendor nets up to the next tier at a ratio of 3:1 by just selling them. So we have 9 strong iron nets here, and they'll vendor up to 3 simple steel nets the next tier up. As you can see, that goes from 48 to 66 to 58 to 70. You'll also notice that the levels of the different tiers overlap. I typically just use the lower tier for as long as I can until the monsters start reaching that higher end of that tier, and then swapping over to the next one and then vendoring the rest up. Now you can only use the nets to capture beast type enemies, and they're listed all in the bestiary here, so you can have a bit of a browse through to see. But anything that's like a construct or a demon or a humanoid is not going to be capturable, so you're just sticking towards the beasts. Some zones don't have very many beasts in them, like in Act 5 for example, it's pretty much all humanoids. You might encounter like a few dogs and things like that, but for the most part it's all humanoids, so you'll do a lot less beast capturing in them. Other zones on the flip side, like the jungle areas in Act 2, are full of beasts, and there's tons of different ones you can capture in them. In every zone, however, yellow and red skull Bestiary League beasts can actually spawn in addition to whatever else spawns in there. So even in a zone that doesn't typically spawn many beasts, you'll occasionally run into one of these yellow or red skull on the minimap creatures that you can capture, and those are important for some of the recipes. So now let's go over actually capturing them and a few tips for doing so. Okay, so I can see on my minimap here, there's actually a red skull beast here, and these are prime targets for capture. These guys are actually, when you capture them, they'll unlock an ability to craft a unique item. So if you go into the bestiary menu here, you can actually look at our recipes, and you can see this create a unique section here. The first time you capture one of these red skull guys, which have 2 modifiers on them, they'll unlock the recipe to be able to craft a random unique of that type. And all you need to do is fill out the rest of the beasts for that recipe. So these are very important to try and capture them if you want to have a good chance of crafting some things. The good thing to know about this recipe is that they craft League exclusive items as well. So if you do, for example, craft a unique belt, you can actually get a headhunter from it, and someone got a headhunter using this method on day 1 of the League, which is ridiculous. Okay, so we'll capture this red skull over here. There's 2 ways to capture a beast with a net. If it's a weaker beast or you have very high DPS, you can throw the net on them, and then you get a 3-second period where the beast is stunned. If you bring its health down low enough, you know, somewhere between the 10 to 30% range, depending on the monster, then the beast will be captured, Einhar will spawn in, and he'll take the beast away to the menagerie. If the beast is tougher, then what you want to do is bring its health down pretty low, say to 30 or 20%. If you have Culling Strike or the Slayer's Cull, you want to bring it up just above that, so try not to cull them, that can be a little awkward. Or if you have a lot of DPS that you can't control from things like minions or totems, then you may want to throw the net a little bit earlier. But what you need to do then is bring them down low enough so that when you throw the net in that 3-second opportunity, you can do enough DPS to bring them down low enough. Basically, you have to weaken the beast enough to be able to capture them. So let's do it here. Let's see what this red skull is. Alright, so it's one of these Eye Beast things. These guys can be pretty dangerous, so watch out. They're also very tanky, and sometimes they can spawn with double regen mods or a single regen mod, and that, combined with their high life total, can make them very difficult to actually bring down. Frost Bomb is a very useful skill for helping with that because it cuts down monster regen by 75%. These guys will also spawn adds constantly as well. The adds do give experience, so it's not a, it's not too bad a thing. So this guy's not too tough, so I'll bring him down to like 40% health or so, maybe a bit under. Just clear up some of the adds. The adds aren't capturable, so you don't need to worry about accidentally targeting them. So he's low enough now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press whatever key I've bound to the net button here. I'm going to throw it on him.
I cannot do this yet.
And when he's caught in that net, I'm going to bring his health down low enough. Alright, so this is actually pretty good because I get to show now what happens if you fail. So his health wasn't low enough when the net timer expired, and he broke out of it. He's actually enraged. They get stronger for a short period of time. And during that period of time while they're enraged, you can't actually throw another net on them. So what we need to do then is bring him down low enough. He's pretty low now. We'll throw another net. and then we'll bring him down. If we get his health down to 0, it's pretty much a guaranteed capture.
The first ones look upon this capture with pride, Exile. You hunt well.
Okay, so with that successful capture of a 2-stat Red Skull Beast, these are called legendary bestiary monsters, we would have unlocked a recipe if we didn't already have it. We can see what that recipe is because I've already unlocked that in the past, and it's the ability to craft a random unique wand. So let's go check it out. You can get to the menagerie from any waypoint by using this button here, or you can talk to Einhar out in the field and he can open a portal for you. If you need more nets, they drop pretty regularly from monsters. You can use that 3-for-1 recipe I mentioned earlier, or you can actually talk to Einhar, and you can actually purchase nets as well. They start at scrolls and move up through alks, and I don't know what the higher ones cost just yet, but I assume it probably goes up to like chaos or something. As for what you actually want to use your nets to capture, you want to stick to the red skulls, because those give you the legendary crafting recipes, which, as I said, can be quite profitable if you land something like a headhunter. Yellow skulls, which are used in a few of the other important recipes and can also be used as filler in other parts of the recipes. So for example, anything that needs a rare can also use one of the yellow skull rares. That works just fine. Anything that also needs a magic or any white monster can also use anything above that as well. So if it says requires any magic spider, any rare spider, unique spider, red or yellow skull spider will work in its place as well. So you want to be capturing those red skulls all the time, the yellow skulls whenever you can, just to kind of fill out your crafting recipes. You can fill out with just regular rare monsters occasionally, so that can be handy to pick them up. And also unique zone boss beasts as well are capturable and can be used in specific recipes, particularly while leveling. There's this create a leveling item category here. And if you scroll through this, you'll see that these are all actually zone bosses. Even like the Weaver, for example, in Act 2, is used to craft a rare jade amulet with maximum life. Not too bad while leveling. Now the thing about these crafting recipes is that the item level of the item that you get back is based on the item level of the monster in this first slot here. This is the monster that determines what the recipe is and also, again, what that item level is. So for example, if we go for one of these leveling ones that I can do, a rare weapon with fire damage, for example, this uses the boss, the Burning Menace. Now this is from Act 1, so Burning Menace is only item level 10, or he's level 10, so the item level we're going to get back is level 10. That one we just captured, the wand, the level of him is level 61, so the level of the unique wand can be up to, well, the item level of the unique wand will be level 61, and any unique wand you can get will be anything from 1 to 61. So when you want to actually craft something, you'll need to make sure you have all of the monsters here. Sometimes it'll require a specific monster, like a spider or something, and other times it'll require like a category of monster. It'll also say whether it requires anything like a rare or anything like that as well. So as you can see, this one requires a rare cephalopod, so we can have a look in here and see where that is. That'll be somewhere in here. Cephalopods are under the deep. So that's things like squids and Merveil's daughters and stuff like that. Now, as I mentioned, you can use anything kind of above rare, which this is kind of like the first kind of pro tip for making crafting really easy. You can actually go back to lower level zones and capture zone bosses that you know they're going to spawn there and use those in the recipes as like a quick and easy way to locate something that you need. So for example, there's a lot of recipes that require an avian type beast, and that includes rowers. And we know where a unique rower is. Uzbek Bloom is over here in the coast. So you can just head to the coast, go to Mud Flats, and then grab Uzbek Bloom. You'll capture him from full HP with a higher level net, so it's easy peasy, and then you can use him in the recipe. It also makes the fight in the arena here that you need to do to craft the items much easier as well. To add to that pro tip, in addition to like Uzbek Bloom in the Mud Flats, there's a few others that are pretty regulars that you can get quite easily. In the caverns, you go backwards from the waypoint, and Kuuru, the drop bear, he's used in quite a lot of recipes, so you can use him as a filler. Sometimes you might need something like this, any rare creature of the Ursay, and you can use Kuuru from the caverns in that, and he's super easy to locate because he's just pretty close to the waypoint. And you'll probably discover some other bosses you can reliably easily go back and use to fill out recipes. And this is pretty handy. You know, if you get one of those red skulls, which are somewhat rare, and you want to fill out the recipe nice and quickly to try and craft that unique, then you can just go to the zone that you know has a boss that you can pick up easily to do that. Like maybe you go back to Quarry and get Boulderback, for example. Now the reason this technique works is because, again, the item level of what you craft is only determined by the first thing in the recipe. So this guy just here. So this guy's level 61, it's level 61. Some of these guys are lower, 56, for example. And if we swap this to anything else, let's find a recipe I can swap around a bit. See if there's anything that's a bit lower. Okay, we've got a level 26 rare that I captured at some point here, Grey Crawl. Now, this is a 2-stat one. If we used him in a recipe, it would only be item level 26, but we could use him here, and you see it doesn't actually change the recipe at all. So let's go ahead and craft one of these. So once you're done, it's a good idea to just check these slots because you might want to intentionally make sure you're not using any 2 stats, if you have the choice. So for example, this is going to use a crab here that I could use in this recipe to craft an amulet. So if I use this guy here, I then can't craft the amulet until I find another crab. So I might not want to do this, but I have another alternative. Click on this and just check this. It's a good idea to double check this so you can avoid this. So right now, if I just went ahead and did this recipe, I'd be wasting the chance to craft a unique amulet. So instead what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select one of these other ones maybe. I have 2 of these guys that allow me to craft rare ones, unique ones. I don't really care about unique ones, so I'll use one of them instead. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenging fight because we actually have 2 red skulls in here. But we'll go ahead and do it.
Prove to the first ones you are worthy, Exile.
Be careful as some of these fights can be a little dangerous, eh?
You are truly a survivor.
So once you've completed the fight and made the sacrifice, you will get the item that you crafted in here. In this case, we got a 3-step assault. So the final thing I want to mention is just some recipes to keep an eye out for that I've discovered so far. Obviously, the unique ones are fantastic. You can get some really nice stuff from that. This tabula rasa that I got pretty early on by using this crafter unique armor piece. I crafted that the second time I did that. I ended up getting a, and that's just by using a rower, so I didn't have too many troubles kind of taking those guys down. And I got a tabula rasa, which was pretty nice on the day 1 or 2, 12 chaos or so. Not too bad in hardcore to find one of those while leveling. Pretty good stuff. Other ones to keep an eye out for in the leveling category, rare boots with movement speed, Oozback Bloom, so you can get movement speed boots guaranteed as soon as you get into the mud flat. So you just grab Oozback and a couple other innie rowers, they can just be white rowers, and movement speed boots straight away. So when you're leveling a new character, guaranteed way to get movement speed boots. If you're starting out in the league now, then keep an eye out for that one. There's a couple of other movement speed boots recipes that you can get with higher levels, so keep an eye out for those as well, because you can get them from other bosses later on, and those guys will give you higher amounts of movement speed, so you can get like 15 and 20 and so on as you move up. The next one is this Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, guaranteed Quicksilver Flask for the Fawn, and that guy's in like Prisoner's Gate, so from level 10 you can get a guaranteed Quicksilver of Adrenaline, really nice. You don't have to rely on waiting for that second Quicksilver to drop and then crafting it, just that guaranteed Adrenaline drop. If it's your first character in the league, this one here, Amarissa from On the Way to Mervale, a couple of Sea Witches will give you a rare helmet with guaranteed Fire, Cold, and Lightning res. Not too bad. Like a little mini gold rim. There's a ton of other ones, like jewelry with cast speed, and we've got some, here's one of the other ones, 100-foot Shadow, which is from Aqueducts for higher tier movement speed 1. Gloves with attack speed, things like that are quite good for leveling to be able to get a guaranteed stat like that. Especially things like jewelry, pretty good while leveling because, you know, guaranteed 2-stone ring with attack speed. Nadia the Soothing there. That's pretty good stuff to get because, you know, rare jewelry can be very nice while leveling just in general. It only has to roll like 1 or 2 other good things on it in addition to the attack speed. And you've got a pretty nice piece of jewelry that could carry you through to endgame there. And remember, these things can be farmed. So if you really want to get something very good in that slot, or the thing you rolled the first time is garbage, you can easily just go back, recapture that boss, and the other requirements of the recipes are trivial. If you're really lacking in any slot, there's an entire category here just for random rares. It just creates a random rare of that type. So shield that requires strength, for example, will be armor-based shields. So you can go ahead and use that. And these only use regular rare monsters, so you don't need to wait for any particular bestiary monster. So you can just kind of capture those as you go. And that's what I do whenever I see a rare, and I just kind of throw a net on it and beat it down. It counts as a kill anyway, so it doesn't really take any extra time, and that allows you to fill out this recipe. And then, you know, if you're really, you know, struggling like the glove slot or something, you can just craft gloves a few times with this recipe. Just again, the level of this is based on the top left guy, so you want to make sure you select something that has a decent level, and make sure you're not using anything you want from another recipe, like this one here, which would craft a unique. There is also weapons with specifically things like increased physical damage, great stuff for leveling, you know, better than, potentially a lot better than using like the Rustic Sash recipe, and it being a guaranteed rare means you could well land flat physical and attack speed, craft a couple decent weapons while doing that as well, so pretty good stuff. These more specific recipes tend to use the yellow skulls, that's where these guys come in handy. So you can see any rare creature with the Infested Earth mod, and that'll be one of those yellow skulls, will allow you to craft this one with just a bunch of other random rares. The other really cool ones are convert this unique item into another random unique item. You can just take any unique and re-roll it, and that just uses any yellow skull with spectral swipe. So whenever you grab those, good idea to re-roll uniques, because again, this exceeds the restrictions. So you could roll a helmet and end up with a unique belt that ends up being a headhunter. So pretty nice to use that. A little bit like you're using a little bit more of a chaotic ancient orb. Another very handy thing is to use the search bar and type in flask, because you'll see there's a bunch of flasks that you can craft, and also the ability to add guaranteed flask mods. So if you're rolling a flask and you really need to get bleed removal, you roll a good prefix on your flask, you can then use this recipe here to add staunching to it. Very nice stuff. And then we talked about that adrenaline flask recipe. In addition to that, there's things like create a granite of staunching and a magic basalt of experimenters mod, and those can be gotten through Boulderback and the Basilisk, which are both in Act 9. So if you don't have a granite or a basalt, which are obviously very handy, then you can grab one of those once you get to Act 9. Pretty cool stuff. Hopefully you found this guide useful. If you've discovered any interesting recipes or any other tips you'd like to share in the comments below, hit them up. I look forward to checking them out. Anyway guys, enjoy. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.